If we can all rise and recite with me the council prayer. Dear God, today as the session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which would be good for the city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Mayor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Elliott. Councilor Kazandrian.
Here.
Councilor Lenzi.
Here.
Councilor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armand Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Here.
9 present.
The chair would like to recognize Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Walter J. O'Neill, Sr., beloved husband of Helen, with whom he celebrated their 57th wedding anniversary this past June. He attended St. Michael's Grammar School and Lowell High School class of 42. Mr. O'Neill joined the United States Army during World War II and was involved in the liberation of Auschwitz, receiving the Bronze Star. Mr. O'Neill worked for the post office as a letter carrier and later as a district safety coordinator, retiring after 35 years of service. He also worked for UMass Lowell in the maintenance department. He was a longtime Highland resident and a communicant of St. Margaret's Church. In addition to his wife, he leaves behind 4 children: Robert O'Neill, Barbara O'Neill, the director of the Greater Lowell Workforce Investment Board, Catherine Fallon, and Walter O'Neill, 7 grandchildren, which is his favorite hobby of all. Our sympathies to the family. He will be truly missed. Thank you.
Could we all rise with a moment of silence for this outstanding citizen of our city? Thank you. May he rest in peace.
Good guy. He's a good guy.
It is with great pleasure my colleagues in government will look on their agenda and it will indicate the mayor recognizes the Lowell Seniors Count program. Not just the mayor, but the entire city council, the Lynch administration would like to recognize the great work that you're doing and reaching out and volunteering your time, your dedicated time to this cause. Manager Lynch and I were at the Senior Center Saturday, and we thank Lynn Brown-Zunitz, but we would like to do that again tonight. Lynn, please come to the podium, and please, everyone, put your hands together for the great job that they did.
Thank you, Mayor Caulfield. We wanted to come tonight to show the community and the seniors of Lowell what we look like, what we're going to be wearing, what we're going to be carrying with us, and what we're going to be giving them when we come out to see them. We started this morning at Market Mills and J.C. Place and Majestic Apartments. We went out this morning, we started to do our visits, our senior count visits. And I have to tell you, I came back to the senior center and met this crew of people, and I became emotional because meeting these people where they live and talking to them about living all their entire life in Lowell, what they love about Lowell, what they need to stay where they are, and the few little things that we can do to make life better for them was amazing. We have about 80 volunteers just like this that'll be going out to all the elderly buildings first, the all housing authority buildings and all of the elderly complexes in Lowell during the month of August. This Thursday night, we'll be back again at Market Mills and J.C. Place and Majestic Apartment, and we'll continue those visits on Saturday morning. The month of August, we'll be going into all the buildings, and then we're going to regroup, start in the fall in September, and start doing neighborhood by neighborhood, Acre, Belvedere, Centerville, and so on and so on. We're bringing each senior a gift bag of resources. Now, it's not a bag of all kinds of wonderful, expensive things, but it is a lot of information. You might not need to know how to get Meals on Wheels today. And you might not know about a tax abatement or a discount program, but you will once you get the bag. So the seniors that we met today, and I can speak for my colleagues here, we're very, very pleased, excited to get the information, and really happy to have us in the house for that half-an-hour visit with them. Some folks, as you may imagine, don't have anyone visit them. They were gracious and kind and opened their doors to us. So we're very excited at the opportunity to show people in the city what we look like, so they know when we come to their homes, we'll have the picture ID, we'll have our T-shirts on, and we're coming in mass. So nobody's going to be alone, we're coming in teams. When we hit Belvedere, there'll be 200 of us. We're not going to be in Sacred Heart one minute and Belvedere the next. We're all going to take each neighborhood by storm. Now, if you want to get involved, you have to take a training at the senior center. We need more volunteers, 18 years and older. All of you, when you're in your neighborhood, you should come and take a training. It's an hour and a half. And I'm going to introduce you to the gentleman who's leading the training team, Professor Andy Hostetler from UMass Lowell.
This is a wonderful university-community partnership, and UMass Lowell is very proud to be part of it. Today was a very exciting day as we went into the field for the first time and started talking to seniors, and it was a very energizing day for me. One thing that makes this project so unique is that it depends so vitally on community researchers, by which I mean everyday folks who don't have any necessarily academic training but just want to get involved. As Lynn mentioned, we already have 80 volunteers. We need at least 200 to do what we need to do. So there's a 2-hour training session. It's fairly painless. It's fun. We offer a lot of different time slots. We really need volunteers to help us go out and talk to every senior in Lowell. There are 15,000 seniors at least. So you can imagine what kind of army of volunteers that we need to reach all the older adults in Lowell. So if you're interested in volunteering, please call the Senior Center, 978-970-4131.
Thank you, Andy. I also want to mention the sponsors. Collectively, they gave us over $25,000 to help with this effort. So we couldn't do it without the help of the sponsors and our funding partners, which is the Mass Department of Public Health and a Massachusetts Healthy Community Grant.
Lynn, would you like to read off those sponsors and give them?
Well,
yes.
Peabody Properties, Lowell General Hospital, Wingate at Lowell, Trinity Ambulance, Blue Cross Blue Shield, the Lowell Sun, Heroes Sporting Goods, Butler Bank, Allegiance Hospice, Evercare, Lowell Housing Authority, Community Teamwork, Visiting Nurse Association, Enterprise Bank, Lowell Community Health Center, Barica Crossing, University of Massachusetts, Lowell Police Department, Merrimack River Valley House, Visiting Angels Daycare, Chelmsford Crossing, the Senior Medical Program, the City of Lowell, Project Bread, the Atrium Community Family, Lowell Police Department, as I said, Elder Services of the Merrimack Valley, and certainly all of you in the administration of the City of Lowell. So for all of you, we thank you for your support.
Thank you. We thank you for your dedication, your time, and the business community for helping us do this. So congratulations and good luck.
Thank you.
I now will entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting and place them on file by Council Milanauza, seconded by Council Rita Mercia. All in favor of accepting the minutes, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The minutes have been accepted and placed on file. Moving on with the agenda. Unfinished business. An ordinance creating new positions, deleting and abolishing some positions, and establishing salaries of said new positions, and amending the compensation of certain employees and other changes, all consistent with and included in the City of Lowell budget for fiscal year 2009, passed by the City Council on June 9, 2008. What is the wish of the body?
Move approval. Second.
Move approval by who? By Council Broderick, second by Council Martin. Any discussion, any debate? Roll call.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Yes.
Excuse me. Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armand Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
9 yeas.
I believe you have some information from the manager pertaining to this next article on the agenda. Exonet requests permission to string telecommunications via appurtenances from the July 8th meeting. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, council members, as you know, this has been a petition that was brought forward to the council back in June, and we put it off at that time to give us an opportunity to investigate further and to have some discussions with Extenet, and I appreciate the council's willingness to do so. We then followed that up at a second meeting in July, the first meeting of July of the council, where we asked for an additional amount of time to see what we could work out with Extenet. And I certainly appreciate their cooperation, and I know they would have liked to have had it approved back in June, but we delayed that until we could iron out something that we felt was in the best interest of the city of Lowell. And I'm happy to say that we do have such an agreement, that we've given you a memo that's in front of you. This is a technology that's being spread out in a number of communities around us that have already been approved for Extenet. We feel that the agreement that we have is very favorable to the city, will allow us to have some new technology rolled out in the city that will benefit us from an economic development standpoint, but likewise it also will benefit the city operationally with the arrangements that we've made. So based upon that, I certainly recommend to the City Council that they grant this permit and that our partnership with Extenet move forward.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Manager. Again, we haven't received any information on this. Last time we talked, I just got a memo here tonight. I would actually like to put it off and see if I get some more information on this. For me to vote on this, and it probably is a good thing for the city, but personally, I don't know. And for me to vote on it, I'd like to get a little more information on it, and then at that point, say either yay or nay. And like I said, it might be a good thing for the city, but I really like to get some more information on it. And that's just my personal opinion. Like I said, I walked in here tonight, and I've got a memo in front of me, and that's
Sure.
something I looked at it for probably 5 or 10 minutes at the most. So,
Mr. Manager?
If I may, Councilor, I certainly understand, and the representative from Extenet is here, and perhaps it would be worthwhile for them to just explain, once again, what I agree, that the council should know what's happening. This is, I will say, from a simplistic standpoint, this is a process that's very similar to what goes on with other utilities that come to the city that request the ability to locate in public ways. It's really an approval of a location of wires and apparatus. But perhaps the representative from Extenet could describe fully and answer any questions. I think that would be very helpful to you as a councilor, but also and to the entire city council, but also to the public at large.
is he here tonight?
Yes.
Hi, thanks. Dave Schneider from Extenet. Primarily what we did is, actually the last time I was here that afternoon, what we discovered is that Lowell has a pretty significant fiber plant themselves in place. We thought that since you have it in place, you're ready to go, you're ready to use it, you have some needs, quite possibly we could help you fill in some of the blanks of your own system. So that's what we did really, is meet with your IT director, and we're going to be supplying you fiber optic cable and splice points throughout our network that will help the city kind of tie holes that they have in their system together and give you some excess capacity. And so that's what we've tried to do. When we've done that through the IT group, and going forward, we're going to also try to help him if he has any installations he's ready to do while we're ready to go and do this. We'll certainly try to get you the benefit of using the contractors to do the work at the same time we're putting in our system. And we've agreed to do that as well.
Manager Lynch?
Mr. Schneider, I appreciate your sort of describing out to the council in a little bit different detail the agreement that we've worked out with Extenet with the city. I think what Councilor Kazanjian is really looking for is an explanation of what Extenet is and the types of service that you provide and what this project will entail for Extenet in terms of what type of wiring will be put in around the city, how many locations, or what type of equipment will be put out there. And then ultimately, I think what Councilor Kazanjian is mostly looking for is what's the benefit to the city as a whole to have this type of system out there.
Well, primarily, the original application I gave you, nothing has changed in our system since that. So we have, and I forget offhand, I think it's approximately 37 node locations throughout the city. So what happens is, from the base station location, we're going to string fiber optic cable in areas of the city that will lead to these node locations, which are utility poles, and primarily the fiber will be aerial. There are some areas where it's going in conduit that's already there, and then some very small areas where we'll direct bury the cable. At those node locations, they're utility poles. They're little antennas that are about 2 feet long, about 1 inch in diameter. They look like a piece of PVC pipe. Those antennas go on the top of the pole. On the pole itself, there's a box and a disconnect, an electrical disconnect. It's at least 12 feet above ground, the box is, so no one can get to it. And primarily that box just converts that fiber optic cable back to an RF signal and puts it out the antennas. What this is going to do for the city is, the nice thing about this DAS system is it's a shared system. So the next carrier that wants to get on it can get on it. They use the same antennas, the same fiber, the same box. It's just simply a card that goes in that box. The next carrier, same thing. The carrier this is primarily going to benefit right now is Metro PCS. The great thing about Metro PCS for the city of Lowell is they're filling a niche for the residents and customers here. Metro PCS has a very good package where people don't have to sign up for a 2-year agreement to get a cell phone. They don't have to go through credit reports. And it's primarily going to help those residents be able to get their hands on this technology without having to get disapproved because they don't have the ability to sign up for a couple years. So it's another company coming into your town, which just creates more competition, which in the long run just keeps bringing prices to residents and businesses down on this technology. And that's the thing we're real excited about bringing in a new company into the city to operate.
This for cell towers, it's like for cell phones, is that correct?
Correct.
So in other words, you're going to run, are there certain streets or every street in the city you're going to run these fiber optic cables? Or?
No, just certain streets.
Certain streets. And again, you're going to be making money and you're going to turn it on to other carriers. You make money on other carriers. So what's the benefit of the city? What's the city going to get out of this? Are we going to get any type of revenue out of this? Or,
We will be getting some revenue that we've negotiated, as well as access to some of the fiber cable that will be able to be used for the city purposes. For our technology, for instance,
free of charge, or is it some type
Yes.
of?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we use that now, and are we being charged for it?
We have some that we have out in the city right now. This will allow us to fill in the gap. This is something that we've been, the IT department has been pricing out to have us do it over the course of a period of time. With a provider coming in like Extenet, we can have this work done for us that will allow us to avoid those costs in the future. It's used for us is for surveillance cameras that we may be able to put out there, improved communication for data transmission, as well as voice for city departments that are located in various locations throughout the city. So it has some real benefits for us in terms of long-term cost savings.
Well, we can do that with Verizon right now. Is that correct? Because my facilities, I do the same thing. I can run surveillance cameras through Verizon and all that stuff.
Right, but you have to pay for that.
Right. So in other words, this will be free of charge for the city if we decide to do that.
That's correct.
Do we have any intentions of doing that?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
It's very similar. We already have a cable that runs in a number of locations throughout the city, a fiber cable through our contract with Comcast. We have what's known as an institutional network that links up many of the municipal buildings. This will go out to more of the municipal buildings and more of the locations throughout the city.
Okay. Do we have a list of the streets that we're going to be putting this on? Main roads, or is it side streets, or is it?
You were given maps, but I have
Yeah.
Sure. Chair recognizes Andy Sheehan.
Yeah.
Council, there's approximately 26 miles of cable that will be strung, so, it's, as Mr. Schneider said, it's main streets, it's side streets.
So it's pretty much going throughout the whole city, yeah, okay.
Well, yeah, we've got a couple hundred miles of street, but it does cover a great portion of the city.
Okay, that's it for now, thank you.
Council Broderick.
Thank you. Excuse me. I think that it's nice that we have Mr. Schneider here tonight, because I also have some questions, and maybe through the manager, they're offering, and they're gonna do 2 fibers throughout and then 1 direct interconnect. Do we have an idea, we were pricing that out, do we have an idea what the cost or the savings to the city is for that?
From my conversations with the chief information officer, it would be somewhere in the vicinity of $100,000 for the city to run it. It's not the cost of the fiber, it's the cost of actually
Installation.
running it,
Right.
installing it.
So, okay. And we're gonna be able to use this for cameras and things, and maybe at intersections, at some of the dangerous intersections, would be nice. Okay, thank you, that's all I have. Oh, I'm sorry, correction. This does not have to go out for, there's no bid process here? No bid process involved?
No, this is very, as I said, it's very similar to when the city council has a petition by Verizon or other utilities for locations. That this is essentially a private transaction. They're going above or through public ways, but it's not something that would be bid out as a utility.
Okay, thank you.
Just one question. Is it my understanding that this will improve the text messaging that takes place throughout the city? Will that make it a little bit better?
Particularly in the area of City Hall.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. I think this is a good agreement. My question is, how long will the agreement run? How long will the agreement run? Is it a 2-year agreement or 5?
15 years.
15 years. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. Mr. Manager, are we to believe that there's already wires and lines out there providing this service?
For the city?
No, not for the city, but on a regular daily basis. There's lines out there already?
Oh, yes, there are.
Oh, there are. And so this company is coming forward, and they're going to pay $200 per route mile of the 26 miles, which translates to an annual fee of $5,200, right?
That's correct.
What about those other people that are over the route? They're not paying anything.
That's correct.
So we could have nothing, or we could have something. I'm happy with something. So move approval.
Second.
Thank you. You said you indicated that, I'm sorry, that you provide the radio frequency in your letter. I'm looking, that was dated back in March. Point-to-point transport of radio frequency. Is that similar to Verizon, or what is the difference between, I guess, the radio frequency that Verizon or other cell phone companies offer communities?
We actually, our antennas operate in those frequencies. This is just another way of those companies doing business. Those companies will actually be the ones that go on this system. So the frequencies that they operate on in their cell towers are the identical frequencies that we broadcast on our system, because their calls have to be able to go through either one. This is just a different way of them doing the same business.
Okay, so is it more expensive, or can you not get a license for a cell tower, or why put them on utility poles?
Well, actually, what distributed antenna systems do is gives them the ability to grow the system when future capacity is needed. With a cell tower, you basically have 3 sectors on each cell tower site. That's why you have the triangular platform on the top. And so you're limited to those 3 sectors. With the DAS system, it's a dynamic system. We can allocate the amount of antennas based on the amount of equipment that they put in the base station. So as the need for additional capacity comes to the carriers, they simply need to bring in more phone equipment into the base station. And if you have 40 nodes that are on 3 sectors, you can now, with another base station equipment, have 40 nodes on 6 sectors. So you bring in another one, you got 9 sectors. So it gives them the ability to grow the system. And in an area like Lowell, they're anticipating that they're going to have a lot of need for capacity in the future, so this just is a better way for them to handle the product right now.
So rather than putting up cell towers, we're putting up these little antennas on telephone poles? Is that
Correct.
Essentially what it comes down to? And I see Verizon has written you a letter of approval, so it's...
That's a different Verizon. There's Verizon Wireless, and there's Verizon the phone company.
Okay.
That's from Verizon, the phone company, who does the national N-Grid, owns the poles. Verizon does the authorizations for the joint use. So.
Okay, I see that you're located in Illinois. Have you set up these nodes or these, set up these antennas in other communities throughout the country?
Pardon?
Lowell's not the first place that you've started this.
no.
You're from Illinois, your company.
Yeah, the company's based out of Illinois.
How many have you set up?
Well, in Michigan, we have 5, 6, 7, 8 communities in Michigan these are in. We just built out Las Vegas. We built out Memorial Villages down outside of Houston. That's 5 communities. We've built out, just built out Wellington, Florida. We're building systems in California, all through New England. It's a technology that's kind of just taking off in the last 2 years, and we're glad to be a part of it. And so it's moving. So no, you're certainly not the first.
And is the fee that we're getting similar to other communities, $200 per mile, or?
No, it's very unsimilar. Typically, communities don't get anything.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing. Can you anticipate, or depending upon usage and number of customers, you may be back, you may not be back? Is this the number of nodes depend upon how many people are using
the number of nodes is strictly dependent upon the coverage of the node.
Okay.
So basically, we do an RF plot, and that coverage, of course, is kind of similar like cell towers. It depends on the topography. It depends on, the density of buildings. So we have RF engineers figuring out where to put nodes, just like they do where to put antennas. It's just they need to put them a little closer together because they're so low to the ground.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for answering my questions. I understand it better.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really don't have any questions. I think this is a good agreement for the city. I appreciate Mr. Schneider's patience. I think the third meeting that they've been here, and I know they had a very lengthy process to notify all the abutters along 26 miles of route. So it wasn't an easy process, and there was a considerable fee paid to the city for that. I just renew my request that I think we should be looking at putting all of these things underground. I know it's not feasible, but I think you start a street here, a street there, we do it in the downtown, and long-term, I think, it's something that we're going to have to address. So it's not really germane to this discussion tonight, so I'll let it go with that. But I do appreciate the Extenet folks and their patience with the city, and I think it's a win-win proposition for us here.
Councilor Kazanjian, then I'll entertain that motion. Councilor Kazanjian?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of questions. So right now, the city's basically using Nextel Communications, is that correct? For the city employees, we're using Nextel?
Oh, we use a variety of, we use Nextel, we have some Verizon accounts as well.
Is it
For us, we're talking about our cell phone service?
Correct.
Right.
Is that something we're going to do away with and use Extenet? Is that?
No.
No?
No. This
Okay.
is just a cable wire, and they indicate they are providing these antennas that will benefit any number of wireless carriers. Extenet is not a wireless carrier. They're just a provider to
the wireless carriers.
To the wireless carriers.
Okay, all right. All right, and like Councilor Rita Mercia pointed out, we're going to be getting $5,200 an annual fee, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, for what's?
15 years.
15 years, okay. I think you answered all my questions. I am going to be in favor for this. I was a little disappointed because I didn't get the information a little bit earlier, so that's why I did speak up the way I did. But Mr. Snyder did a good job, and he did answer all my questions, so like I said, I'm going to be in favor of it.
Thank you.
I think it's a good thing for the city. Thank you.
Motion to refer this to the wire inspector by Councilor Rita Mercia, seconded by Councilor Amber Mercia. Any objections? Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Is going to the wire inspector. It's time for the public hearings. And please, during the public hearings, give us your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes or less to discuss the issue. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Appendix A thereof entitled Lowell Zoning Ordinance by extending existing TMU zoning district to include the back portion of 1141 Bridge Street in Lowell. Those wishing to speak in favor, please come to the podium and give us your name and address.
Mayor Caulfield, members of the City Council, James Flood, an attorney with offices at 81 Bridge Street. I represent Mr. and Mrs. Meng Ang, who are the owners of the property at 1141 Bridge Street. At the present time, the property is a split zone, partially TMU and partially TSF. So the petition before you tonight is to extend the existing TMU zone to cover the TSF portion, which is approximately 4,752 square feet. I think most of you people are familiar with the property. It's adjacent to the Market Basket Shopping Center on Bridge Street and across from CVS. At the present time, there's a large pink building on the property, which previously was the Town Crier gift shop, and I think it's been closed for many years. I have a picture that I can pass around. What my client is desirous of demolishing that building and constructing a new retail professional building on the site of approximately 5,500 square feet. I think I presented to you people a copy of what that building would look like, and in order to build that building, we need some additional space for parking. The building would all be located on the portion that is zone TMU presently, and the parking would be on the other zoning, the other portion. We have, and if this is approved by this board, it would have to go back to the planning board for site plan approval. So if there's concerns, all of those could be addressed by the planning board. It was in front of the planning board. They endorsed it. We have presented it to the Centerville Neighborhood Association. They've endorsed it. They've approved it. Anne Marie Page was going to be here tonight, but I don't know if I should say this. It's her birthday, so she's not here tonight. But she did send a letter. It was her feeling that this would be beneficial to the neighborhood and would work well with the new construction that's going to be done at Demoulas. So that's the purpose of this request.
Thank you, Mr. Flood. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come to the podium. In favor, in favor, in favor. That portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to come to the podium to speak in opposition. In opposition, in opposition.
My name is Roland Roy. I live at 66 Willard Street in Lowell. Excuse me. I'm in the butter to this property, and I'm very concerned that it is a piece of junk, the building. However, there's a lot there next to it, and it's abutting my lot, and I would like to have it taken care of somehow, so that we can do something with it. I have a yard that's all landscape except for that yard. Now I'm just wondering what's going to happen to that. Is that property, I don't know if the attorney has mentioned, apparently there's going to be two lots, two different owners on this property. Is there enough room for a house to go in there?
Yes, please.
The remaining lot on Willard Street does conform with zoning as it is in the city of Lowell today, so a house could be constructed on that piece, but that's not our property.
Okay.
That's owned by somebody else.
Mr. Flood, I think the gentleman is asking, I don't think he's in opposition, but he wants to know if the site will be cleaned and landscaped and so forth.
Well, I think the site that he's talking about is the site on Willard Street, which we don't own. It's on the other side of our piece. I think it's probably, how many, can I see that for a second, Mike? It's 7,000 square feet, so it is a buildable lot, and eventually I assume a home would be built on that lot. But we're talking about the piece behind it, which we intend to clean up, improve, put trees in there, and, we fence it any way Mr. Roy would like it done, so. Okay. But I can't answer for that other piece.
Sir, did that answer your question? Sir?
It does.
Did that answer your question?
But it's still not 100%. I would like to see the whole thing on the side of my lot taken care of. The city seems to me should, whoever owns that other piece of land should take care of it. I mean, and make it look decent.
Well, now that you brought that to our attention, we probably will address that.
Well, I wish there was. Other than the fact that it isn't a restaurant, so I'm not opposed to that. If it's an office building, I'm not opposed to that. But I am opposed with how the land is going to look like after it's completed or whatever's going to be done with it.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Public hearing is closed. What is the wish of the body? Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We always know that when Attorney Flood seems to get up to the podium and represents an issue, whether it be changing a zone for a particular purpose, we always know that he represents that client to the fullest, and we always know that the end result of that product would be very substantial for the neighborhood. Having said that, I don't live there, so I take highly and make my decisions based on neighborhood groups and what they think. And for the record, for the public hearing, let the record reflect that we do have before us a letter from the Centerville Neighborhood Action Group and Anne Marie Page. They are very thorough people. They don't just let something come in and support it. They thoroughly scrutinize it, so you know that they're going to get something very good there. So, and I know that Anne Marie's having her 39th birthday today, but be that as it may, I do support this. Now, let's go back a little bit and know that we had opposition. Not opposition to this particular project, even though he's in a butter, and I can assure you, sir, that you will be satisfied. But he brings up the fact that there's another parcel of property that is derelicted. We don't know that, so let us check and get inspectional services over there to see who owns this property, what is their intention of it, and this man shouldn't have to look at something like that. So maybe we can beautify the whole section at one time. So you didn't come up here for nothing. We will, in fact, address your issue. Okay? So everybody will be happy today. That's nice. Thank you.
Councilor Broderick, then Councilor Kazanjian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Mercier beat me to the punch here. We do have a letter from the Neighborhood Action Group, and it's obvious that this has been a lengthy process, and Mr. Flood and his client have talked to the neighborhood group, and people are informed and for the most part on board. I think the concern that we heard tonight, I think we can address that in the zoning addresses vacant buildings, but probably vacant lots in terms of minimum maintenance standards. And hopefully we can get someone on that as soon as possible, Mr. Manager.
Yeah, Councilor, we've taken down the information. We were not aware of the issue out there, but we will be sending people from inspectional services out the next day or so to check on that site.
Excellent. And as was stated by Attorney Flood, that this is just the first step to make it something that's usable and will be better suited for the neighborhood, but it will have to go before the planning board, so there'll be further discussions and input from the neighborhood, so people can look forward to that. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Kazanjian and Councilor Lindsay.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to see if Mr. Flood can possibly meet with Mr. Roy so he can show him the plan. Evidently, he doesn't know exactly what's going there, so maybe after this meeting here, you can sit down with Mr. Roy or set up some type of meeting or time that you can sit down and show him exactly what you're going to build there, and I'm sure it's going to answer a lot of questions he might have.
We did show it to him at the planning board meeting, Alan, and he saw what the building has looked like. I think his concern is with the piece in front, and I'll make a call on that too. I know who owns that property.
Okay.
I think that's his concern is the condition of that small 7,000 square foot lot in the front.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilor Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was my comment. I think when we do these projects that enhance the neighborhoods and things, is you go to the next piece of land or property that might not fit in. And you know, once we address this piece, there's probably another piece, one street from there or one address from there. But the tendency, I think, is when we do these projects that they snowball and they build out to beautify our city and improve our city. And I'm glad Mr. Roy brought that up tonight.
Councilor Elliott, did you have a question?
I did, but it was answered, so.
I'm sorry I didn't recognize.
That's okay, thank you.
Councilor Martin?
Thank you. If I could just ask Attorney Flood, did your clients need to buy this extra piece that's being rezoned from the current owner of the front lot?
It was subdivided, and they bought the whole piece, yes. From the person that owns that piece on Willow Street, yes.
So the person who's now the problem has made a profit here, and I think really, if, not everybody's a good neighbor, so the city really, I think it's incumbent on us to act and force the cleanup of that lot if it's not being done, so. Yeah, otherwise, I think it's a good proposal. It has the support of the neighborhood, and certainly looks like it makes sense for us to approve this.
Any other discussion or debate on this particular issue? And I would also include, Mr. Flood, you could let Mr. Roy know when the planning board is going to meet on this particular issue, so we can work with the man. He's a great businessman in his own right.
He'll get a notice anyways, Mayor Caulfield, because we have to send out certified letters to them in accordance with their requirements.
Thank you. Roll call?
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'll speak to him.
Thank you. The next agenda item for public hearing, to vacate, discontinue, and abandon certain public interests, rights and easements in West Jackson Street, King Street, and a portion of Jackson Street in the city of Lowell. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance, please come forward. An order, rather, not an ordinance. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this order? That portion of the hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? Opposition. Public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the body? Councilor Arman Mercia, move approval. Second by Councilor Milonazo. Roll call.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Present.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 present.
Moving on with the agenda, an ordinance creating 2 new grant-funded positions and establishing the salaries therefore in the Health Department. Those wishing to speak in favor, please come to the podium. Give us your name. In favor, in favor, in favor. The portion of the hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition. In opposition, in opposition. Public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the body? Move approval by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Roll call.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Moving on with the city manager's portion of the agenda. Communications from city manager, responses to council motions, requests. Does anyone have any? Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, there's a memo from you about the Hunts Falls Bridge in the packet, and indicating, I think, the construction schedule for repairs on that bridge is going to be now delayed at least until spring of '09, which I think is welcome relief given what we have going on with the University Avenue Bridge. It does, in the memo, talk about somewhere later on about 2 other bridges. I assume one of those is the Rourke Bridge. I'm not sure which is the other.
I believe the other is the University Ave Bridge.
Okay, so I tell you, is the Rourke Bridge going to lag even further behind than the Hunts Falls Bridge? Do we know that yet?
No, I believe the work on that is still scheduled to take place in the fall timeframe. And the University Ave Bridge, we're going to have a report out to the council within the next few days outlining the work that will be taking place there. As you know, that the situation with that bridge is quite severe, and we are going to have, and we're somewhat delayed in being able to get the bid specifications out and then the bids received to have the work done this summer. So that's going to be taking place this fall. And that will certainly be a problem for the city, but one that we have to deal with because we have to maintain that bridge for the next 4 to 5 years until the new bridge is open, and really this is our only opportunity to make that happen. The Rourke Bridge work will not be a problem here in the city, the way that they are scheduling the work to be done there. I believe all of that work will be taking place at night,
Okay.
so it won't be a problem for the motorists in the community.
Okay, thank you.
Council Rita Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to comment about the headlines that appeared on the front page of the newspaper on Saturday, July 19th, titled "Off the Streets," and commend the Lowell Police Department, Superintendent LaValle, the state police and federal officials who are involved in that 10th-month-long investigation to make our streets safer and thug-free. And I know that it's their job. We hear this all the time. It's their job. I know it's their job. But as a resident in the city, you just reassured me that I'm getting my tax dollars worth. You reassured me that the police are in charge of the streets and not the hoodlums. You reassured me that you will still continue to fight this scourge and be out there on a daily basis getting those weapons off the street. And I want to reassure you that I am proud, and I'm sure my colleagues are, and that I support your efforts 100%, and that I speak to many people out there when I say, job well done. And I hope that this sting sends a message to gangs better than a Hallmark greeting card. Thank you.
Very, very well said, Councilor, and I'd just like to comment that United States Attorney General Michael Sullivan, the FBI, Massachusetts State Police, our Lowell Police, the men and women of the Lowell Police Department, I was never so proud of them. And one could not believe the firearm, the firepower, the ammunition that they confiscated. It was absolutely incredible. And it was a 10-month investigation, like you indicated, and they deserve a great deal of credit. Mr. Manager, can you let it be known that the council, the mayor, is extremely happy and pleased with the job that they did.
Not to mention the $70,000 on top of it.
That's right. Any other discussion on communications? Accept the communications and place them on file by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Lindsay. All in favor signify by saying aye. They have been accepted. We have 2 out-of-state travel requests. Move for approval by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Martin. Roll call.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Raman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Moving on with the agenda, in the City Council order to meet fixed charges and current expenses of the City of Lowell for the fiscal year 2007-2008, ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows, that the amount of $2,510,358.49 be transferred from various salary and wage accounts, various operating appropriations, as well as all remaining funds in the fiscal year 2008 contingency account, all of which are more fully described in Attachment A. 2, various accounts in deficit, all of which are more fully described in Attachment A. Second reading by title. Order to meet fixed charges and current expenses of the City of Lowell for the fiscal year 2007-2008. Any discussion, any debate? If not,
Move approval.
move approval by Councilor Armin Mercia, seconded by Councilor Alan Kazanjian. Roll call.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Raman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Moving on with the agenda, acceptance of Westview Road extension to take by eminent domain a fee, a certain parcel of land in the City of Lowell for the municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of Westview Road extension and other municipal purposes associated therewith. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Lindsay. All in favor, waive the full reading, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Full reading has been waived. Second reading by title, to take by eminent domain in a fee a certain parcel of land in the city of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of Westview Road extension and other municipal purposes associated therewith. The council approves. This will go to a public hearing August 12th. Any discussion or debate on that issue? Okay. Move to send this to a public hearing by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Broderick. All in favor, signify by saying aye. It's on its way.
Mr. Mayor, I'm voting present on that, because I live on Westview Road, so.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Council. Anyone else? Okay. Let's see. Moving on with the agenda. Authorizing the city manager into a license agreement with Sovereign Bank to encroach upon the city of Lowell property at 170 Merrimack Street and Palmer Street, Lowell, Massachusetts. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Armand Mercier. All in favor of waiving the full reading signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The full reading has been waived. Second reading by title, authorizing the city manager to enter a license agreement with Sovereign Bank to encroach upon the city of Lowell property at 170 Merrimack Street and Palmer Street, Lowell, Massachusetts. Any discussion, any debate? Council Milonazo.
Just a procedural question. Do we really think we're going to get the president and CEO of Sovereign Bank to sign this license agreement? I mean, again, he's out of Pennsylvania. I mean, I would think that it wouldn't be the president and CEO. I would think it would be his designee.
Sure, they can just get a vote of the officers.
Right,
And whoever signs it is attesting
Okay.
that they have the authority.
Okay.
Any other discussion, debate on this issue? If not, roll call.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armand Mercier.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercier.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Moving on with the agenda, authorizing the city manager to accept and to expend grant funds from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Health and Human Services for essential school services to be administered by the City of Lowell Health Department. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Alan Kazanjian. All in favor? Waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The full reading's been waived. Authorizing the city manager to accept and to expend grant funds from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Health and Human Services for the essential school services to be administered by the City of Lowell Health Department. Any discussion or debate? If not, roll call.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armand Mercier.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercier.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Moving on with the agenda, designating additional parcels to be included in the previously established Hamilton Canal District Priority Development Site and authorizing the city manager to file a formal proposal with the Massachusetts Interagency Permitting Board for their approval of the extension of the Chapter 43D Expedited Permitting District. Motion to waive the full reading by Council Broderick, seconded by Council Lindsay. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. The full reading has been waived. Second reading by title, designating additional parcels to be included in the previously established Hamilton Canal District Priority Development Site and authorizing the city manager to file a formal proposal with the Massachusetts Interagency Permitting Board for their approval of the extension of the Chapter 43D Expedited Permitting District. Any discussion or debate on this issue? None? Roll call.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Present.
Councilor Armand Mercier.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercier.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 present.
An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Appendix A thereof entitled Lowell Zoning Ordinance by extending his existing DMU zoning district to include 31.1 and 31.2 Jackson Street in Lowell. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Armand Mercier, seconded by Councilor Jim Milonazo. All in favor, waive the full reading, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The full reading has been waived. Second reading by title. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Appendix A thereof entitled Lowell Zoning Ordinance by extending existing DMU zoning to include 31.1 and 31.2 Jackson Street in Lowell. This will be referred to the Planning Board. Any discussion or debate on this issue? Councilor Martin.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just be recorded as present on all these votes. I do have a client on Jackson Street, I think maybe a tenant in one of these buildings and may derive some benefit, so I just want to be excluded from the deliberations.
Okay. Then why don't we take a roll call on the, sending this to the planning board? Any discussion on that? Roll call?
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Present.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 present.
That's referred to the planning board. Moving on, we have an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts with respect to Appendix A thereof entitled Zoning by adding a new Article 9, Section 9.6 entitled Downtown Lowell Smart Growth Zoning Overlay District and extending the existing Hamilton Canal District Priority Development Site. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Lindsay, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Full reading has been waived. Second reading by title. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts with respect to Appendix A thereof entitled Zoning by adding a new Article 9, Section 9-6 entitled Downtown Lowell Smart Growth Zoning Overlay District and extending the existing Hamilton Canal District Priority Development Site. This also will be forwarded to the planning board. Any discussion? Councilor Kazandrian.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this going to a public hearing for the, are we going to vote on this to vote on?
It's referred to the planning board.
Planning board? Okay, I know it came up in front of us before, the Smart Growth District, and I just had a couple of questions. It's said right in the ordinance it's going to be a low-income type of district, is that correct?
There has to be a certain percentage of low income, low to moderate income units.
What is the percentage, do we know?
That's 20%.
Is this the zone, the district that Bank of America is involved with?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
And we get some type of money back
Yes,
from that?
That's correct.
This is very exciting and beneficial to the city.
Yeah, and what part of the Hamilton Canal District is it, do we, for the smart growth?
The remaining portion, Mr. Bakey, if you want to add to this, the remaining portion of the Hamilton Canal is part of that smart growth district, but
This is actually, good evening, Councilor, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager. This property that's subject to these proposed zoning ordinances, the one prior to this one and this one, are properties that are actually adjacent to the Hamilton Canal District that will be redeveloped by Trinity Financial. These properties are actually controlled by Bank of America, CDC, and the Architectural Heritage Foundation. And the smart growth, the Chapter 40R smart growth zoning district that is proposed only encompasses the properties owned by Bank of America and the Architectural Heritage Foundation.
What are we talking low income? Is it low income for artist living? Is it low income for any individual? Does it matter?
It's actually, the requirement is that 20% of the residential units be affordable at 80% of area median income. And because our area that is used to define area median income includes a number of very wealthy suburbs like Westford, the area median income is actually higher than the median income in Lowell. So the people who would live in those, or who would be eligible to live in those affordable units, are basically the average Lowell resident.
Okay, thank you.
From what I understand, this would be a great development, and it's going to bring in tax revenue to the city, and it's going to transform those old mills into something we could be proud of.
Do we receive money from Bank of America too? Is that correct? Do we receive some type of revenue from Bank of America?
receive tax revenue.
Okay, right.
Councilor Broderick?
Thank you. This project also will have an impact on the garage, correct? It can help,
Yes.
when it's done, help fill it up, and there's talk of a bridge going over from one of these buildings also?
Yeah, this applicant actually, the owners of these properties actually made a donation to the Lowell City Council back in March of last year that was used to finance some changes to the design of the parking structure that enabled them to, in the future, come back and actually build an overhead bridge over Jackson Street, which will connect the parking structure to their buildings. They have also requested to have a significant presence in the early parking garage, which will ultimately, that will be at market rate, so there will be revenue coming back to the city from their parking in that building as well.
Great, thank you.
I just want to say that this is just as important in that neighborhood as the courthouse or the garage. It's going to be an anchor, in that entire neighborhood. Council Milonazo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The transmittal letter from City Manager Lynch also suggests that we schedule a public hearing before this body for August 26th. Can we do that, or do we need to wait for the planning board action? Can we actually schedule a public hearing now, or, again, I don't know if that's the wish of the...
Yeah, the developers had requested that if there was anything we could do to facilitate moving the process as expeditiously as possible, they would appreciate that. And one of the steps that the council could take, should it wish to, is to refer both this ordinance and the one you previously voted on that would have changed the underlying zoning to a public hearing before this city council on the 26th of August, in addition to referring it to the planning board for a report and recommendation. The planning board would be able to hold their hearing and provide you with its report and recommendation in time that you would have that information for a public hearing on the 26th of August, if you wish to do that.
I'll be happy to put that in the form of a motion to schedule both of those for public hearing for the 26th of August.
Motion, motion by Council Milonazo to refer this to a public hearing August 26th. Who seconded?
And the previous
Seconded
ordinance
by
as well.
Council Broderick. Any discussion? Well, this is going to be referred to the planning board as well. And all in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? It is going to the planning board and to a public hearing August 26th. Any discussion, Mr. Manager? You all set? An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, as amended by replacing Chapter 9 thereof entitled Garbage and Refuge in its entirety and inserting a new Chapter 9 entitled Waste and Recycling. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Lindsay. All in favor of waiving the full reading, signify by saying aye. The full reading has been waived. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, as amended by replacing Chapter 9 thereof entitled Garbage and Refuge in its entirety and inserting a new Chapter 9 entitled Waste and Recycling. That is scheduled for a public hearing August 12th. Council Mercier.
Thank you very much. I guess my question is, was this developed with any input at all from the City Council? This ordinance, this eliminates the previous ordinance if it passes. Has there been input at all on this from the City Council? Well, subcommittee or otherwise?
I would say that many of the ideas that are included within this and the meat of this ordinance are a result of the feedback that we received from the City Council, the Environmental Subcommittee, and the Neighborhood Subcommittee in the discussions we had regarding our solid waste program. Mr. McCarthy, Mr. Wellenstein worked through the information that was gathered and discussed at those meetings to put this together.
My next question, I guess, would be directed through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city, the council for the city. Is there an opportunity here at the public hearing to make amendments to this? To these certain items? Let me give you one in particular that concerns me. 9.7, and I just got this tonight, so I didn't go through the whole thing, but this one in particular says that you cannot put your waste out before the day it's being collected. I think our present ordinance says the night before, or 24 hours before. Now, I can see this to be a problem with an awful lot of people in the city that probably wouldn't get it out there by 8 o'clock when the waste truck comes down, and that's why they put it out the night before or 24 hours before. So my question is, at some point in time, can that be amended at the public hearing, or is that it at the public hearing?
Sure. You could do one of two things. One, certain passages of the ordinance could be stricken by the council if it was upon a majority vote of the council to do so, or there could be slight modifications to the ordinance, and something like that. I don't believe everything would be on a instant by instant, case by case sort of basis. But something like that, I don't think would violate the whole point of a public hearing in terms of putting the public on notice. These are the types of changes. So you certainly could strike something from the ordinance and not violate the fact that it was sent out for a public hearing and a public notice. And I think you could also arguably make minor modifications, particularly if you were reverting back to what currently exists. And there would be, in my opinion, there'd be no violation to the public hearing.
Could we, Mr. Manager, have a copy of the present one that's being eliminated, completely replaced by this, so we can kind of
Certainly.
compare to see if maybe the powers to be forgot something that's terribly important?
Absolutely.
And that way there, we can take a look at where the changes are and see if we agree with the changes.
Absolutely.
Because that one particular item, which I just caught tonight, I think will have an effect on the people that usually put it out 24 hours before, because they're either not up at 8 o'clock in the morning to put it out when the trucks are coming by. So that's just one item, only because I read it tonight and I didn't read the whole thing.
Sure.
So if
We
we
could-
could get a copy before the public hearing of the present ordinance, so we can compare where the changes have taken place, because that's one of them.
We can have that sent out the
Okay.
next couple days to
Thank you.
each of the councilors, and
Okay.
that'll give you a couple weeks to review that, if that would be helpful.
Thank you.
That's a good point, Council.
Yeah, thank you.
Council Broderick?
Thank you. That's a good idea. I was going to ask for, if you could take it a step further and maybe give us a little cheat sheet as to the major changes. Certainly, we can read through them and compare them, but I think it would be good to draw our attention to the major ones. That, I think, is potentially could be a problem. I know it's happened at my house, where they come at 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden they show up at 7 o'clock when they start. You're at the first street, and you don't have your garbage out, so it could be a problem for people. And some people are up early in the morning, but maybe dressed for work and don't want to lug barrels and refuse out. So I think that it might be handy for everybody to have some type of index or cheat sheet, for lack of a better word.
Manager Lynch? Councilor, we're more than happy to put something like that together. That may take a little bit longer than just the getting the current ordinance out, but we'll work on that immediately and get that out, and again, have that in councilors' hands with enough time for the public hearing.
Thank you.
So what the request of the council is, get that information, get the verbiage of the old ordinance so you can compare, but still send this to a public hearing August 12th.
I don't mind sending it to a public hearing, but I would like the opportunity, after reviewing it, to make some suggested amendments if they're minor and not necessarily major. Because this is a big item. There's been a lot of discussion about this. An awful lot of people in the city don't quite understand what's happening here. And I've had a number of calls about what happens if this pickup truck picks up my barrel and there's a snowstorm and there's a snow bank. Will they put it right back on the snow bank, or will they put it in the street? So, I mean, this is a very important item, a big change in the city, and the more input we can place into it, the better off we'll all be, I think.
Absolutely. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you. I think that's a good point, and we have been discussing it, and it is, there'll be some significant changes, so maybe we should send it to, the public hearing, and at the same time, maybe the subcommittee. I guess my question is, what if there are some significant changes at the subcommittee, and having taken a first glance at that, there are clearly some questions, some concerns that we need to work out. What would you consider substantial? Let's just take that case in point. I think that's a valid point, that a lot of people, including myself, put it out at night. So that, for all intents and purposes, we make that change. What does that do to the public hearing?
Right. The issue that Councilor Mercier had brought up, I don't believe would constitute in any way a major change. If you were going to refer the matter to a public hearing and have the entire matter reviewed, then at that point it may very well make more sense to not send it out for a public hearing in the event that there are substantive changes to the text of the ordinance.
Okay, if it's okay, I don't know if that's a substitute amendment, but I think it'd be a good idea to send it back to the joint subcommittees at the same time, to have a discussion, deliberation on a number of these items that I have some questions on as well.
Motion by Councilor Elliott to refer this back to the subcommittee for more discussion. Seconded by Councilor Mercier. I'm sorry.
Just to be clear again, if you were going to send it to a subcommittee meeting, then again, it may make sense to postpone altogether the public hearing until such time
Definitely, yeah.
as you conclude, as opposed to doing both. So in other words, you wouldn't send it out for advertisement in its current form, given the fact that there may indeed be substantive changes, and so you would hold off the public hearing portion until such time as the subcommittee met and concluded its business.
it's too important, I think, to rush into it. I really believe that. And I think it's
I-
a great idea.
I-
The substitution motion, I'm assuming means to postpone sending this to a public hearing and refer it to a subcommittee for further review and discussion on the item. That's what I'm seconding.
Yeah, I receive a lot of calls from
I
the
do too.
elderly, and they have a lot of questions. Council Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I neglected to ask also, Mr. Manager, to give you some more work. We had discussed about the big, probably the biggest element of this is going to be enforcement, and trying to get some numbers or ideas, expectation of what it's going to be for costs of that, and what we're expecting for savings, and what's going to be the net to the city here, hopefully in savings by implementing, if we do some type of new ordinance. So if we could maybe get, and I know it's going to be, somewhat of a guesstimate, but I know you have a plan to enforce, so if we could try and factor that in as well. Thank you.
Council Kazanjian?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say, Council Arman Mercy brought up a great point, and I'm in favor of postponing this also. And now that we have in front of us, and we can get the old ordinance, we can see the difference, and brings up a good point, because a lot of people bring out that trash at night, and I'm sure there's a few other things in there we can pick apart too. So,
Any other discussion? We're sending this to the subcommittee. I think time is of the essence, so if we could have a subcommittee meeting and have it in place with a report for that next meeting.
Why is time of the essence here?
Well, I mean,
it's not going to be implemented until January.
Well, if I may,
Council Manager, Manager Lynch.
The issue that we have where time is of the essence is that we need to start the educational component to this. And we also are in, we've, based upon the budget vote and the discussions we had leading up to, on this issue leading up to the budget, we've been in communication with Allied Waste regarding the action steps that we need to do to implement this on January 1st. As it stands now, actually, we're not even looking at January 1st, we're now looking at February 1st because of the time this has taken. And, I think we can still move forward with a number of aspects of this one way or the other, but clearly in terms of making our arrangements with Allied, the sooner we know exactly what we're doing officially, the better off we will be. So if we don't do that, the savings that we thought would be there in this budget would disappear, and that would cause us to have some budgetary issues. So that's why time is really of the essence of this.
Mr. Mayor, just one more question. You mentioned the educational factor of this, which I think is the most important part of all of this, is letting people know what this means to us, to them, how it's to be implemented. I hope that part of that educational effort is also in the school system.
Yes.
I think the more we tell the kids in school what this means, that they can bring that to their parents, I think the better off we are. And a good example of that is the seatbelt law. I don't know of any kids today that go in a car and they'll put the seatbelt on automatically and tell the parents to do it. Right. And so that educational factor should include the kids in the school department being aware of what this is all about and bringing that message home to their parents.
Councilor, I agree completely,
Thank
and I've seen great success with that happening on this very issue in other communities, and I think it's something that really needs to be done. The value of recycling, as well as how this new system is going to work.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other discussion? This ordinance will be referred to the, I believe, the Environmental and Neighborhood Traffic Subcommittee, and convene a meeting as soon as possible. And I think it's a good meeting for the committee as a whole to be involved with this. So the various chairmen of those subcommittees will convene a meeting and move this forward.
After we get the copy of the present ordinance.
Yes, that shouldn't be a big issue, right, Mr. Manager?
No, that's, again, getting that out shouldn't be a problem at all. And we'll see what the staff can do to put together the differences for the next couple of days as well.
I think it was wise for the council to delay and get more information before we have that public hearing. I really do. So, moving on with the agenda, is a request for suspension of the rules. Move for suspension by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Martin. All in favor of the suspension signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Suspensions are in order. The first reason for suspension, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to accept a gift from Drew Weber of $7,500. Second reading by title, authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to accept a gift from Drew Weber of $7,500. Council Broderick.
Motion to accept.
Motion to
And
accept.
thank you very much.
Seconded by Councilor Milonazo. Roll call.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Thank you.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia?
Is that all? Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
8 yeas and 1 thank you.
The second request for the suspension is authorizing the Chief Procurement Officer to proceed under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, for the lease of property for the Career Center of Lowell Division of the City Manager's Office. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Armin Mercia. The full reading has been waived. Second reading by title, authorizing the Chief Procurement Officer to proceed under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, for the lease of property for the Career Center of Lowell Division of the City Manager's Office. Any discussion or debate? If none, roll call.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott? Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Subcommittee reports. No subcommittee reports. Moving on with the petitions. Miscellaneous. Attorney Goldman and Curtis, representing Kazanjian Enterprises Incorporated, request city accept O'Hare Way. Motion to refer this to the manager and the law department by Councilor Rita Mercia, seconded by Councilor Armin Mercia. All in favor, signify by saying aye, and opposed?
One absent, present.
One abstain.
Councilor Kazanjian recluses himself, left the room. Moving on with the petitions. A pole location, National Grid request one pole, Andover Street, referred to a public hearing August 12th by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Lindsay. Two claims. We have two claims. Refer them to the Law Department by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All in favor, signify by saying aye. They're on their way. Motions. Motion by Councilor Milonazo. City Council requests the city manager begin the process to abandon a portion of Sheffield Street off Stockbridge Avenue, seconded by Councilor Rita Mercia. On the motion.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, through you to the city manager, I did receive a call from a constituent who lives at 29 Stockbridge Avenue, and I can give you his name and contact information. He would like to acquire a piece of city-owned land on Sheffield Street. So I will get you the information.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, and the motion carries. Motion by Councilor Milonazo. City Council requests the city manager report on the status of the city chapters 111F cases. Seconded by Councilor Martin. On the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going through some files the other day and came across a memo from Christine O'Connor back in June of 2006, where at that time she did update the council on public safety officers out on 111F benefits, and I just thought it would be an appropriate time for the city solicitor through the city manager to update the council as to what's going on with the early intervention program, as well as the priority list as to what is the current status of public safety officers out on 111F.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. The motion carries. Motion by Councilor Rita Mercia. City Council requests the city manager to have the proper department trim the trees in the vicinity of 140 Hovey Street. Seconded by Councilor Lindsay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to amend that motion to make it 410, not 140.
410?
410
Hovey Street.
I'll
Hovey
second
Street.
that.
I know some people see things a little bit backwards, but it is actually 410. I'm sorry, just teasing you.
Maybe there's no trees at 140.
The motion more or less speaks for itself, but these are city trees, but I'm very concerned about the limbs being so close to the electrical wires. So I don't want our city people to go up there. I think it has to be done professionally by the utility company or whatever. I think they wouldn't, you could see that in front of that particular house. In fact, it's right around the corner from my colleague, former mayor, Councilor Bill Martin. It's his neighbor across the street, and it's very, very bad. And I went by, and the heavy limbs are right on the utility pole, and we certainly don't want to have him lose power because we know that he needs all the light that he can get. But be that as it may, that's the motion, and it speaks for itself.
So
Thank
if we
you.
contact National Grid, they would probably
They
do that.
won't even remove double poles. I don't even
Well-
think they're going to do this, but I am going to
If it's
try.
going to affect their profit. If they
I can say, one of my neighbors did call the power company, and they will come and trim trees back from power lines. They didn't get them all because one limb did fall on my car, so, Counselor, thanks for intervening here.
Yes, so that's a very important motion.
Any other discussion on the motion? You put a lot of spark into this motion.
Thank you.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, the motion carries. Motion by Council Rita Mercer. City Council requests the city manager provide an update on the city's CSO separation project in various neighborhoods, seconded by Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, when we hear the word flooding, our thoughts naturally turn to areas of Pawtucketville and a portion of Centerville, but what we have is, in actuality, is sporadic flooding in various parts of the city. One place in particular, where T.J. McCarthy and I visited on Thursday, July 17th, was at the bottom of Hastings and Shaw Streets, where the runoff after heavy rain rests and floods. As the pictures that I passed around to my colleagues indicate, there were about 20 residents gathered there to ask, where do we stand in terms of relief from flooding? Will our concerns be addressed? And what can be done to alleviate our cellars from future floods? These were the questions that were asked at the gathering. So the motion is related to that visit, and I may request some answers at their next neighborhood meeting. So that's why I'm bringing this motion forward. And previous to that visit with the people down there, I met with the lovely couple at the very end of Edward Street who had a flooding problem as well. This has become the #1 concern and issue in the city lately, and everyone is concerned as to the chain of events that will offer relief. So, Mr. Manager, if you could provide an update on the CSO separation in the various neighborhoods, i.e. the scheduled plans, costs, et cetera, that'd be helpful, as well as the fact that they're already on Chelmsford Street, and since we're already in the immediate neighborhood, perhaps we can travel a little bit further up from Chelmsford Street to Shaw and Hastings Street. So that's the gist of the motion. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Broderick?
Thank you. I think it's a good motion. I think it's important to get the updates out to the local business people. I know Chelmsford Street's been dealing with it the second year, but Gorham Street, and I've received many compliments on behalf of the city's work and the police department in directing traffic and the manner that they're working out there. But I think it's also nice to maybe give them some type of time frame, because as they get closer to where they're moving down to the intersection, it's starting to block off traffic going out towards the cemeteries and whatnot. I know people, especially in the summer months, go out that way to make visits and so on. So I think it's a good motion, timely, and it would be good to let people know and let the business people know what's going on and what they can expect.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Thank you, Mayor. This is the Mr. Manager, right? It's actually a great motion. I'm looking at the pictures from Shaw and Hastings, and it looks like there's 3 to 4 feet of water in it. Is it something that's blocked? Does this happen all the time? Is it just a one-time thing? Or?
I believe it does happen on a, Councilor, I believe it does happen on surprisingly, a more than occasional basis. This particular night, I believe this is the same area that Taya Dixon contacted me on
That's
that
right.
particular night. And I happened to be down at the end of Merrimack here that same night in front of O'Donnell's funeral home, and in the span of about half an hour, we got 3 or 4 inches of rain, and it produced about 1 foot to 1.5 foot of water there in front of O'Donnell's funeral home, and the same rainstorm caused this problem, incredibly.
Wow.
And it's just it's a function of the combined system, and we have these locations. We have a number of locations in the city like this. I know that T.J. McCarthy went out there,
That's
Mark
right.
Young. I know that Andy did some work on this as well, and it's just an amazing amount of backup that happens.
Yeah, this bad, and we get 2 kids on a boat
I
floating
know.
around on the street.
I think the issue is that everything drains into one area, and then the pipes just can't handle it, and it just comes right up through the manhole.
Oh, I understand where you're coming from.
Catch
Is
basin.
this on the agenda to be worked on next, this area?
Yes, it is.
Okay, what's our time frame? Do we have any idea?
I believe it's within the current contract, Counselor, but I don't want to guess at the timeframe.
Ballpark,
whether
I'm
it's
not
this
gonna-
year or next year. But we can get that in the report.
Okay, thank you.
I do know that the contractor is working right on Chancellor Street, right in the vicinity of almost Lincoln Square. Shaw Street is right in the vicinity, so I don't know, they're gonna probably try to tie that in.
That'd be great. I mean, this is bad.
Amazing.
That's amazing, those pictures, Council.
It is.
Amazing.
Yep.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Motion by Council Elliott. City Council requests the city manager and the Parks Commissioner to develop a policy for the permitting of city fields, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Councilor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion does speak for itself, Mr. Manager. I know there's a process in place that organizations go through to get a permit to use the field, but there doesn't seem to be any policy in place, and I guess what I mean by policy is there's no priority on who should use the field, and quite frankly, I know that there's a fee structure in place, but it just doesn't make sense at this point. It needs to be revised, and what I mean by that is, any organization from out of town that may request a permit to use any field in the city, there's only a $20 permit fee. So the reason why I'm filing this, if you go around and you look at some of the fields, and it's not the parks, it's really just the fields, and they're primarily the fields that are used to be permitted for soccer. Edward Street is absolutely, it's a marvelous field, and it's in wonderful condition because it's kept that way. But some of the other field space, Gage Field, the field behind the Wang School on West Meadow, LeBlanc Field, South Lowell, they're really in deplorable condition. And I think the reason behind that, and I've spoken to Mr. Bellegarde, is because they're permitted too much. These sports, particularly soccer, it can't be permitted on a 7-day basis because it ends up, looking like some of the fields. The field behind the Bartlett School, I mean, even the Stocklosa School is used for soccer. And so, it gets frustrating, and my point is, let's have there be, let there put some priority for the kids of the city that should have a good field to play on. They should be able to play on grass instead of dust and gravel. And I think part of the problem is that the field is being permitted to adult organizations. Many of these adults, they don't live in the city. I tell you, down on Sunday, just even this Sunday, I live next to Edward Street, and I went down there because there was a group of adults playing down there, and I think we try to reserve that for the kids of the city. And I asked them where they were from. They were from New Hampshire. They didn't have a permit. They saw an open field, and I said, why aren't you playing in New Hampshire? Because they couldn't get a permit. So I don't want to belabor the issue, but I think that we need to put a fee structure, and I think we should be given priority field use for Lowell kids. With the many more sports are being added. There are more teams being added to the soccer organization. There's 1,200 kids. That's close to 100 teams, and there's essentially 2 fields for these kids to play. And Gage is overused, and it's being permitted too much. The other thing is, why do we charge some organizations a certain fee? I know Lowell one is being charged about $2,700 to use Collie because it's a big, it's a large tournament, and which is a good thing. And then there's another permit issued, and the fee is waived. It doesn't make, and this is to an organization out of the city, Beverly, maybe a couple of kids from Lowell, but I just think we need to rein this in and put a policy or something in place. And the fields can't be permitted 7 days a week because grass, fortunately, needs to grow. So I'm obviously, I'm passionate about this. I think the kids in the city deserve a good field, and if we permit it to them, and if there is available space and the field is in good enough condition, then that should be given consideration. But if that's the case, given a field for $20 or $40, we're getting shortchanged, and so that's my motion. Thank you.
Okay, Council Broderick and then Council Kazanjian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a good motion. I was surprised to find out we don't have a policy. I know we've recently dealt with the fees and so on. But the question I have is through you, through the manager, maybe to the solicitor, but is where would the Board of Parks fit in this setting up a policy? Is this something that could be brought to them as a recommendation from the manager and the commissioner?
Yeah, they would definitely be the final arbiters of any policy, but the manager might have some suggestions procedurally about how to go about doing that if the policy would come from his office or however.
Okay, so it's something that can be worked on, brought forward, and then brought to the Board of Parks? Because I think it's some great points there in terms of overuse and who gets first dibs on the fields. It's a good problem to have, the use on the fields, but it's something we have to make sure we're managing appropriately. Thank you.
It is a good motion. Council Kazanjian?
Thank you, Mayor. It is a good motion. In fact, I'm kind of surprised that we do let out-of-town people get permits. And if that's the case, I would like to make sure that we do to residents only in the city. I mean, they're the ones flipping the bill here for the parks. I mean, they should be the ones using them, not for people from out of town. I think that that's actually a no-brainer to
Manager Lynch?
Just a quick comment to Councilor Kazanjian's point, and I think it's a good one. Unfortunately, if the city has received, and we know it has, state or federal monies to renovate any fields or build any fields, you cannot prohibit outside people from utilizing the field. You can have a different rate structure, different fee structure, which is in fact what we have. But the grant agreements that we have, and for instance, the $450,000 that we receive on a regular basis from the state provides us with an opportunity to improve those fields, but it also puts in certain conditions regarding access to those fields.
Well, maybe we can set the fee structure large enough so if they do any damage to the fields, which they are doing, we'll cover the cost.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Council Rita Mercier, then Council Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What we will do is we will refer this motion to the Parks and Recreation Subcommittee.
And
I will in turn get Stacy there. She does the permitting all through for the city. And having talked about that, I know that at Montbleau Field this weekend, in conjunction with the with the Lowell Housing Authority, they have a lot of children that are going to be there competing in tournaments at PYO, which is a Pawtucketville Youth Organization at Montbleau Field. I believe it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday over there, and they're working with Ray Booton, and they're going to be competing, and it's like different nations, and I'm not talking about one Lowell, that's August 2nd and 3rd, but this is this weekend here, and I just thought I'd mention it if people are interested to go up there this weekend and take a part and see our children enjoying themselves.
That's, I believe, at 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday, all weekend long, and we have to be a lot of athletes from outside the country.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
That's
that
right.
begins at 9. I believe that kicks off at 9 o'clock
Does it
at
9?
Montbleau on Friday.
Okay. 9 o'clock, right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on Council Elliott's motion? Councilor Elliott, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to follow up, and I recognize the Board of Parks. They have their hands full, and they try to balance all the interest and accommodate all of the requests that they have. And I know it's public property, but when private businesses come in, and they're private businesses, whether they they can say they're nonprofit, but they're paying their coaches and they're paying themselves salaries. That's not nonprofit. It is a business, and when they're making thousands of dollars, and the city is getting not a nickel, that's where I think we need to put a policy in place, because we are getting shortchanged, and the fields get beat up, particularly by the adult leagues. I also know that some of the leagues just go to the fields because Lowell Soccer leaves the nets up, and they just go and use the fields, and and they don't pay the city anything. So I just want to raise the issue, and I think it's important that we try to keep that. We spend thousands, hundreds of thousands on trying to maintain these fields and keep them in good condition, and they can't be permitted 7 days a week. It's impossible to maintain them and literally have the grass grow. So thank you for the second chance to speak.
Just a point of clarification for myself. As I understand it, the motion is to request that I work with the Park Commissioner, or the Park Commissioner and I work to develop a policy. Councilor Mercier just indicated or mentioned the Park Subcommittee. Just so I understand, is it the intention, if this passes, for me to work on this policy and then bring it to the Parks and Recreation Subcommittee, or is this being referred immediately to Parks and Recreation Subcommittee, just so I can coordinate?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I guess my intent behind the motion was that you and the Parks Commissioner would develop a policy and bring that, to the Parks and Rec Subcommittee,
I think
and then
it should go to the. I do think it makes sense.
And
to
I
go
think
to
the Board of
subcommittee.
Parks just implements. I mean, I don't think they, and it doesn't matter. I hope we're all working on this together. But wouldn't they implement the recommendation from this council?
Well, I know there's an ordinance, and we established a fee structure, and we established the permitting and how it works. I don't know all the ramifications of it or whatever. Stacy is the one that does that. I'm wanting to bring her to the subcommittee to hear how she does this.
Right.
How does she do this? And do we agree with the way that she does that? And if we don't, maybe we can let our feelings be known to her and hear a dialogue back and forth as to how she's interpreting this ordinance. That's the way I see it. I'm not saying that we have to establish a new ordinance. How does she read this ordinance that we're working with? Is she following it? Is she, putting her own sense into it? My belief is our children come first. That's my belief. Can we discriminate as the city manager said, when we get federal or state dollars, we have to comply with the rules that they set forth, and we can't discriminate, but we can set an established fee structure that's higher for those outsiders. And is she following that? That's all we can do.
No, I agree. Discriminate I'm not interested at all whatsoever, but there are also some other locations, that we have a turf field that, depending upon the size of the event, and which is what happened with One Lowell. It's going to be a large event. And no, I agree. I think this is all good, and we had a good discussion on it. Thank you.
So this will be referred to the manager and the Board of Parks to work out some sort of legal agreement that those people from out of state using our fields can be adjusted this rate and so forth. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Is that right, Mr. Manager? Yeah, okay. Final motion of the evening by Councilor Kazanjian. City Council requests the city manager provide the council with an update on the Riley School, seconded by Councilor Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just basically want to get an update on the boiler and the roof that we talked about a few months ago and how we're making out. I know we're supposed to be doing it this summer. Were you on schedule, or that's pretty much my motion?
Councilor, is normally the case, if once this motion is passed by the council, I would put together an update as requested. But just so that, and we will do that, just so that for the people out there listening, hearing about the Riley School and the council and members themselves, since we won't be meeting for a couple more weeks, let me just give you an update of where we are now, and then we'll put it in a more formal form for you. The boilers, the old boilers have been removed. The contractor is pouring the slab for the new boilers this week, and the new boilers are scheduled to arrive in 2 weeks, and then at which time they'll be connected, and we should be set to go by the September start of school. The roof bids are in, contracts are going out. We're anticipating the start of the roof will be in 3 weeks, with project completion in 5 weeks, weather permitting. So again, that may spill a little bit over into September in terms of getting the roof done, but certainly will be in there for this school year. And you know, the DPW has done a great job of pulling this together for us. One other project that was also included within that bond issue, the capital projects that we passed earlier this year, is the Colley Stadium lights, and those are underway. They're actually ahead of schedule, so another good project for the city.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any discussion on that motion? I just want to say, too, that the electrical department, Mr. Manager, Bobby Sheen and that whole crew, doing a fantastic job with that lighting, saving the city some money. So. Any other discussion before we adjourn?
No.
This Friday, we'll kick off the 22nd Lowell Folk Festival. And I request if you can come down and to the opening and just say hello to the volunteers and the people working behind the booths. And there's hundreds of people who have volunteered to make this successful. I know they're going to have a parade, and at Boarding House Park, the introductions. All former mayors have always been involved with that. It's a wonderful time of the year, and many people from out of the state visit our city. So if you can make it, I appreciate it. Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, pick one of those days. You'll have a great time, great music, great food. And with that said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Lindsay.